We've got Michael Lambe on the call today. Michael, by all accounts, from my perspective, smashed it in our program. He's worked with us over the last few months, and he's kind of taken 20, 30 minutes out of his day to talk about his experience, share it, and hopefully you guys who are watching will get a lot out of it. And also, it's more important to come from the horse's mouth, not me, because I can say stuff. It's much more important hearing from Michael. So before we kick off, Michael, can you just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah. So I'm Michael Lambe. I'm the MD of MLamb Construction, a civil engineering business in Birmingham. Turned over £100 million, 600 people working for us.
Busy man then, right? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And lots going off at home as well, right?
Yeah, 2 young kids, 3 chihuahuas, so chaos at home as well.
Cool. So let us sort of talk a bit about your journey having worked with us, Michael. So what I'd like to do first is kind of rewind right back to the start. Probably sort of 6-7 months ago now. I think you'd maybe come across some of my content, seen a few bits on LinkedIn and maybe Instagram. You decided to reach out and have a chat. What was your motivation back then for wanting to reach out and ask for help with someone like me, a coach? What was going on?
Yeah, so I'd seen a friend of mine who had been working with you, and he'd spoken really highly of the experience. I was just coming off the back of a knee operation, if you remember, and but more than that, I'd gone through a period of not training a lot, and I'd had some personal tragedy that had just meant that I hadn't really been looking after myself at all, and I was just, I suppose, trying to find a new way of looking after myself in the context of running the business and having a busy home life. So yeah, I remember we had a call. I was still on crutches at the time, and I remember you pushing me a little bit in terms of, right, don't delay, don't wait for the perfect moment.
Yeah,
speaking now. Jump on and you won't regret it. And I remember being really nervous because I couldn't do some of the initial steps that you get people doing in that first week, around the 10,000 steps. But the perfect moment never comes along, does it? And I know that's a big thing for you. You just, you've got to jump on and do the best you can in the moment. And I remember that those first couple of weeks when the exercises are, really simple and low volume, and I'll go back to then, and I was struggling to push out 10 press ups. I was struggling to do the 3 reps, and I suppose it made me realise where I was, and I have always thought of myself as, a fit person or somebody who had been fit, but that fit person was 15, 20 years ago. And it's amazing how quickly that, exercise can drift away from your life and the positive impacts that it can have. So yeah, I kind of came to you, not necessarily at a low ebb, but, in a place where I needed help to get back on a good path.
Yeah. And I think, obviously you had some big personal tragedy, and that's going to impact anyone and what happens and how you show up, right? And that's going to, you never wish that on anyone in a million years, and it impacts everything. But then on top of that, you got a big business that you're running with loads of responsibilities. You got 2 kids, you got a wife to support, all of that stuff. And I think a lot of us, without the personal tragedy, even with all of that going on, I was fit as fuck when I was, 15 years ago. Yeah, but life isn't 15 years ago anymore. It's very, very different. I've got all these other demands, and notwithstanding the horrible stuff that's happened as well, and all of that has an impact. And sometimes you can end up just being a bit lost. And I think maybe you've got a bit of a narrative like, I'm fit and strong and whatever else, and not belittling where you were, but you recognise, maybe I'm not quite where I was, and you almost forget that, right?
Yeah.
And I think the thing with you and with the guys I work with is just recognising that and putting your hand up and asking for help. Like there's a quote, it's like, asking for help isn't giving up, it's refusing to give up. And it's just recognising that I can't quite see the wood for the trees here. I don't quite know what I need to do, but I need some support to get there. And I was, because I said I did push you when we first spoke, I was like, you're on the crutches. I was like, look, Michael, I promise you there's things you can work on that's outside of just doing some exercisey bits when you need, and it will help. And you're like, but you went with it, and then you are where you are today, right? I'm going to talk about that. So, what would you say then has been the key successes if we fast forward to like today from having come through the program and the process?
Do you know? I mean, so exercise is now just a part of my routine. 5 days a week, sometimes Saturdays as well. And I haven't been there in, like I say, 15 years, and I'm enjoying it. The weight has come off, and now I'm kind of focusing on different things, getting strong, getting fit or fitter. So that was great. So kind of that ticked the box in terms of what I came to you for. But what I didn't fully appreciate until we were in the program is how much more rounded what you do for people is. And I had let family life become a second-class priority, really. And the kind of prompts that you give and the phone detox to make sure that you can be present for your family was a bit of a realization of what, how I was behaving, really, and that my family wasn't getting the best of me. So that was significant. And I just think that the pause for thought that your weekly group meetings gave to reflect on, right, where am I? What's working? What isn't working? What do I need to adjust? Was really important, because again, you can just get caught up in the rat race and you might be squeezing in your exercise, but other things are slipping. And those moments for reflection and hearing other people, struggling with the same challenges was really useful.
And I think I'm biased, it's my program, but like the group aspect of it, some guys at first are like, they're not sure about a group, but actually, as you know, as guys, as blokes, we've chatted about this offline, other things, guys, mental health especially, we're not great at talking about our feelings or talking about what's going on, or even just admitting, fuck, I'm struggling a bit, I need some help. When you're in an environment with other guys who are ostensibly in one domain very successful, running big businesses, senior in a corporate level, whatever else, so they've got those boxes ticked, but also going, fuck, I'm struggling with this, and I'm not showing up as I want to do at home, and actually I can't get this fitted in, and I find it difficult. Well, it's sort of reassuring, because you kind of think that everyone's got this veneer of being composed, and you think everyone else is sorted and you're the fucking crazy one. When actually you peel back the veneer a bit and realise, oh, there's other gents here who I would look up to on LinkedIn or Instagram, but actually they find this stuff hard too. Well, it's like, oh, fuck, it's not just me versus the world. And that shared kind of both problems and success, I believe, is very powerful. Does that resonate?
Yeah, no, it does. And I mean, that I wasn't probably the most active on the groups, made as many of the weekly check-ins as I could. But just having that ticking over, knowing that it was there, and it's another layer of accountability to make sure that you don't let things drop off, because you've got that check-in, or you can see other people making the time to focus on their exercise, their diet, their sleep. It definitely provides another layer of support that was really valuable.
What would you say is the biggest impact then, having come through the process, had on yourself and your life, work, business, family, the universe?
Yeah, I take it back to making exercise routine and habitual. At various times I've gone through stints of the gym or eating well or back playing sport. And then, even training for an event, and you've got this kind of North Star that you're working towards. Yeah, exactly. And you train like fuck, working your way towards it, and then you finish it, and you're so delighted you finished it. Everything fades away, and within a few months you're kind of going backwards. So for me, it was realizing that you can squeeze in 20 minutes, half an hour in the morning before the madness starts, and actually doing that and not aiming for perfection and not trying to kill yourself lifting as heavy as you can or pounding it on the bike as hard as you can. Just that consistency is what's going to keep moving you forward and enable you to keep it going. Again, I think back to periods when I was training, I trained too hard, I pick up an injury, and then you're waiting until your body's recovered. I haven't pushed myself because you told me that that's not what we're trying to do. And having that voice in the back of my mind to say, actually, just keep going, and what are we now? 8-9 months forwards, and I haven't had any injuries, and I've got all the benefits of that cumulative training over the last 8-9 months, and genuinely feeling better than I have done in years.
And it's not like work or family have suddenly disappeared, right? You've got to have to live in a cave. And I think that's the key, because what I want to ask you is, what's facilitated that? Because I think often in the past, when we've been fitter, stronger, like you said, 15 years prior, 20 years prior, well, I could do it then, but like you probably were going as hard as you were, but you're younger, so you could cope with it. But also you probably had like a fifth of the responsibilities or less, So what's enabled you to keep consistent in amongst the madness?
So I have, I get up earlier now. I'm up at 5, 5:30, but there's something satisfying about training. Training, meditating before anybody else has woken up, and you're kind of up and ready to go. Before anything else comes to you. So that has been a big adjustment. Not a big adjustment because I was an early riser anyway, but I've pulled getting out of bed an hour forward.
Yeah.
Now that's just part of the process. I'll probably fall asleep more often when I'm putting the girls to bed. That's just that's par for the course. So that was an adjustment. I invested in some gym equipment, in an exercise bike. That's been helpful because it's trying to make exercise as easy and as accessible as possible. You can't always get to the gym, or it's a bigger effort. So having it on hand has just made that process a lot easier. And when you've got a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, the idea of swanning off, or even trying to sell it to my missus, I'm swanning off to the gym for an hour and a half. If I'm squeezing out at 5 o'clock in the morning, it just makes that tension easier to do.
And that speaks back to what you said about doing what you can, right? And it's like, well, what can you do? It's like, well, I can't go to a gym for an hour and a half, therefore nothing. It's like, no. Like, what is there? And so, and like you said, I think sometimes, well, building that consistency is what's powerful, right? And the consistency of what you've done, not get injured, just keep going. Well, that bears amazing fruit. But I think initially our ego goes, well, 20 minutes, that's nothing. Yeah, but 20 minutes times 5 or 6 versus fuck all is a lot. You know what I mean? Times 9 months is a lot. And I think when we're at a different stage of life, you maybe have to let go of the fact that, okay, well, maybe the one day a week you can go to the gym and spend an hour and a half there, and that's what you enjoy doing. Great if you can do that once. But if you can't do that, it doesn't mean you can't take care of yourself. And this works for everything, not just exercise, what you put in your mouth, how you set your boundaries, all that sort of stuff. And just looking at your life with a different lens and going, well, okay, this is the reality. What can I do in it? Not what I can't do. Because it's where if you start with the what I can't, ends up, it just draws a line. That's how I'm fucked then. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be like that,
Yeah, and I remember we went to holiday partway through the blueprint program, and so I just dropped back onto the body weight stuff for that week. And I remember, I was still at the stage where I was unfit, so it hurt. But being able to do it in a field, looking out across, the sea, I was on, 20 minutes again before anyone's up. It's nothing, and it's letting go of trying to be perfect and just making the effort to make progress.
Yeah, it's what you say there as well. It just reminded me, one of the gents on the Uncommon Man program, which is the secondary program, which you went into as well. He was on the call yesterday, and he was talking. He was like, well, I had to get up at 4 to go and drive somewhere, and he had some client meetings. So I literally, it was just too early to exercise. Fair enough, he said. So I was in the car park at some service station. He was like, right, fuck it, I'm going to do a body weight instead. So he was in the car park doing his workout. But and that's, it's not because I'm being some drill sergeant making him do it. I'd probably said, oh, no, don't worry about it on that day. But it's like, well, there's nothing stopping me after I've filled the car up with petrol and got a bit of lunch doing that, or before my lunch. Well, so we did it. And that's the attitude, right? It's like, well, what can I do? Okay, is that a 2-hour gym workout? No. But the self-esteem buzz that you get from the sort of person who does a fucking workout in a car park, like, well done. It's that kind of attitude, right?
Well, funnily enough, I was on the phone in my office at home yesterday, and I picked up a kettlebell, and I was just soon doing some jerks and lifts, and I saw the curtains twitch in our bedroom, and I was like, Gemma's caught me. And like it was just instinctive. I thought, well, I'm on the phone, the conversation's kind of going on. It was, and I picked it up, and it was only for a couple of minutes, but just that change of mindset of squeezing in what you can when you can is, and then once you've made the adjustment, it's easy.
Yeah, and it's a bit like building layers of paint as well, because at the start it's tricky, it's difficult, and there's a lot of like sort of preconceived ideas around how you want to apply this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And once you start to let go of that and you see over time, you see the impact that it has. It's like, oh, okay, well, I want to do more of this. And it's actually easy to do more of this. And so the narrative I hear a lot is I'm too busy, I haven't got time. When you might see a 22-year-old on Instagram like going, yeah, we've all got the same 24 hours in a day. Fuck off, we haven't. It's not true, right? Me and you know that. You run a bigger business than me. Like, that is just not factual. But we do have time. It's just how you best use it. And I think being able to flip that sort of the mindset as to, well, okay, there isn't one binary way of operating, and recognizing there's more there. For me, I think that's the most empowering, liberating bit, because once you give someone that, you start to see that perspective. It works for sort of exercise, but it works everywhere. It's like, well, okay, with work, what can we do? At home, what can I do? We're so busy, crazy with the kids. Me and the missus can never go out for food. Okay, well, how's about you have a date night in, just the two of you? Could you just set some candles out and make some time and cook for your wife? Yeah, all right. So it's applying that thinking, but I think it's powerful all over the place, right?
Yeah, and I think also recognizing that some weeks you can make time for exercise and training, and other weeks your priority is family, or your priority may be work that week, but you still make time for what you can do in those periods. So you allow yourself that, I suppose, that license really to deal with the reality as it is, but then figure out, okay, what's possible this week.
Well, yeah, it's the ebb and flow. Like another client I was talking to yesterday, and he's got some huge board meeting. There's all hands on deck, and he's like, well, that day, all I'm focused on is that family goes out the window a bit. I'm doing a tiny bit for me. I'm a tiny bit for me because I need to do something just to clear my head, and then it's boom, all bets are off, because that's life. But it doesn't mean all bets are off either side of that. It's just that one acute day, and it's like, it might be a week where you're more busy at work, or it might be a week where, like I just said to you offline, my kids are sick. Well, that's going to impact what we do and how we do things. It's not forever. You have to tweak it, but what can you do? Yeah. But I think if you start back from where you were right at the start, head's a bit cloudy, not feeling that great about yourself, that kind of mindset is quite hard to just go turn that on, right? You need a bit of a process to help get you to that stage, right?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And the guidance and the process to follow just takes the thinking out of it as well. And that so you can just do what you're told for 8 weeks.
Yeah, and then that kind of builds into its own thing.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, it's been really helpful chatting so far, and I think anyone watching hopefully has got a lot out of it. I certainly have, and it's helpful to hear you talk about it. Just before we get off, let's say someone's watching this, they're kind of feeling a bit like you were, a few months back, but maybe they're a bit reticent about talking to a coach, asking for help. What would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah, I can only talk of my personal experience, and where I am now compared to where I was May last year is just night and day. So, for me, when you don't know what you're doing, or when you're not an expert in something, you bring in expertise, you bring in somebody that knows what they're doing, and hopefully somebody that is tried and tested. And that, that's why I reached out to you, and it has worked for me in terms of changing how I approach particularly exercise and diet, but also helped me reflect on other parts of my life and how I kind of manage that, all those plates that you have spinning. How do you make time for each of them, as opposed to chucking the baby out with the bathwater when things don't go how you planned?
Or just letting them all smash on the floor and running off.
Yeah,
exactly. Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's helpful both for me, but I'm sure anyone watching. If anyone's watching this and they are interested in having a chat, they think, maybe, what Michael said resonated and like to talk about how they can get some help, drop me a DM or drop me a note in the comments. Otherwise, have a fantastic week. Michael, you're a legend. You deserve all the success you've had. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Cheers, gents.
Cheers, Lou.